So it's not too late to top dress right now. You know, a lot of people are worried that it might be too late. I know nobody's excited about it because it's dry, and I'm not really excited about it because it's so dry, so we don't have that soil moisture under it. But if we talk about timing, at least, we're not too late. At this point in the stage, the wheat has not used that much nitrogen, and it won't until we start getting rains. But if we start getting rains around hollow stem and jointing as it starts going forward, we still have an opportunity to make a crop. So what we got to look at now is, how do we want to manage that nitrogen if we don't have anything on? There's two scenarios. One, if you've got too much ground to cover by yourself, if you still apply your own nitrogen but it takes a long time for you to get all your acres, or if you have somebody else apply. You know, a lot of the applicators out there may take 30 to 40 days to cover all the acres that they're responsible for. So if that's the case for you, you need to be making decisions about what fields to apply, because we really need to be pulling the trigger right now on some of the fields at least. So I'd look at fields that have the best stand, the best potential at this point in time, and also that have the least amount on. If you haven't gotten anything on some of your best fields, let's go ahead and get something down. Now, source is going to matter. And in my preference, there's not the best case scenario because it's dry, but there's some preferences. And so if you're in a conventional till field, much like Magruder that we're standing in right now with not a lot of residue, my preference is liquid streamed on. So UAN, urea ammonium nitrate, streamed on so that you can get that liquid onto the soil particle and held on. My fear is with a dry fertilizer on conventional till is that while it's okay when there's no soil moisture, no humidity, if we don't get a rain and we just have some mist and dews, we'll have more losses in the dry than we would the liquid. Flip that, and while I would typically tell you in a no-till scenario I'd much rather see liquid than dry, I want to go dry right now. As long as we don't have moisture in the residue itself, we don't have moisture on the soil, the hope would be to apply a prill, and that prill would shake its way down into the residue and maybe shade it from some of the mist and the dews until we get a really good rain. My fear on the liquid side is if we do not have a rain in the near future, I'm talking the 1 to 2 week outlook, and we need a good rain. If that UAN, that liquid, sets on wheat or stubble residue, that dead decaying residue, there's a much higher chance that it will get tied up in the residue and not be available for the wheat crop. So that's why I give leg up for urea in the no-till a little bit right now, and UAN in conventional till right now.
Let's talk rates whenever applying the top dress.
So of course, if you have an in-rich strip out there, that will give you the rate, and that would be the best case scenario. And if you don't have an in-rich strip and you can wait to apply your own nitrogen, put them out right now in front of any rains, because we can delay application even after hollow stem and make full return. So that's rate. Otherwise, let's look at it this way. If we're looking at rate, how much do you have in the system? Make sure right now, if you're applying right now, that you have enough to get a 30 to 40 bushel crop. And if everything turns great and we have great yield potential, then you can get over the top of it again. If you've grazed, account for grazing. That's going to be 30 to 40 pounds for every 100 weight of cattle removed. And I'd also point out, in Magruder plots right now, we have these strings out here to keep geese off. Geese are a big problem in wheat fields across the state, geese and crane. I've seen wheat fields that had rowed over, so we have canopy coverage over the rows. No cattle, but the geese have come in. You have several thousand birds for an extended period of time, and it goes down and there's barely find the wheat anymore. Geese can remove a significant amount of forage off the field. For every ton of forage removed from the field, there's 40 pounds of nitrogen in that forage. So if you've had geese come in on a field, really strip it down, we should also be accounting for that.
So when it comes to it, it's not too late to do the top dress. When is that kind of the late period?
When we start getting too late is as we get closer to flag leaf. We're okay, the crop can still take it up if we're after hollow stem. The closer you get to flag leaf, the less likely that you can catch up if you're behind, and the less that nitrogen is going to go to grain. So if you have your own applicator, we can wait for a rainfall. We can wait to make sure we actually have some moisture in the tank, the gas tank's full of moisture, before we apply. A couple weeks after hollow stem, I would prefer everything to be on, but with our sprayers now, we can cover a lot of ground with a sprayer after hollow stem with very little damage.
And in your opinion, it does make a difference to put out something?
Oh, absolutely. It does make a difference to put out something. Right now, we want to get yield, as much yield out of every acre as we can if we're looking at a low potential yield. And we also want to make sure that we get a good quality out of it. And so quality is tied to nitrogen. If we short nitrogen, we're going to short yield and short protein.
Okay, thank you much, Brian. And for more information about Top Dress, visit our website, sunup.okstate.edu.